But as the Biden administration and the Democrats try to reap the political benefits from the popularity and the positive effect of the stuff they have done already, they are also making plans to move on to the next big stuff they are going to do through Congress, namely the big infrastructure bill and the American Families Plan that Biden talked about in his State of the Union last week. Well, on that front, developments over the last few days on that will, I think, will sort of set the course for how this is going to go. And that should, I think, hearten and speed up Democrats' approach to both those pieces of legislation. And again, both of those pieces of legislation are as big as the COVID relief bill. They could be expected to have as big an effect on the economy and on American standard of living and on household income. They would both be a huge, huge deal. But a couple of things have happened that I think have set the course for how these are going to go. First of all, you know how we've had this amazing, two-party split screen recently? On the one hand, on the left, we've had Democrats passing a $2 trillion COVID relief bill that got widespread support from the American people and that we now know strapped a rocket engine to the U.S. economy. On the other side of the screen, on the right, the Republicans seem to have no idea what to say about that or what to do about that, as proven by the fact that they all voted no against it, and now they're all taking credit for what was in it. But what they did spend their time on these last few months was just careening through this bizarre series of made-up cartoon outrages. I mean, cartoon literally in some senses. Mr. Potato Head, The Muppets, Dr. Seuss, a ban on meat, right? All of these made-up scandals, these things that were either had nothing to do with the Biden administration and Democrats or that were completely made up and had nothing to do with anything in reality. Well, that dynamic is underway already for the next legislation the Democrats and the Biden administration are pursuing, including the infrastructure bill and the American Families bill, right? The bill that will make childcare way more affordable and preschool and community college. Those things are very, very popular with the American public. And so we've now had our first glimpse of what Republicans are going to do about that. This time around, turns out they're going to try this.
2 years of college, whether you like it or not. These are the things that take away choices from the American people.
2 years of college, whether you like it or not. Wait a minute, huh? This is the Republican argument now. Joe Biden, that jerk, is going to force everybody to go to college whether they want to or not. It's going to be mandatory. What? No, President Biden isn't going to make you go to college because it's going to make anyone go to college, let alone make everyone go to college. Could you even imagine how that would work? Like you'd be drafted or something? And you in the corner, you've been designated to get a master's degree. The president picked you. You have no choice. I mean, how would that even work, Senator? President Biden is not banning meat, and he is not going to force everyone to go to 2 years of college. Senator Blackburn's office later said that she misspoke on that. But come on. This is the character of the opposition thus far to the infrastructure bill that they're going to roll out, which the Republicans say is socialism and is going to turn us into Venezuela, and the American Families Plan, which is going to be forced college for everyone, even if you don't want it. I mean, that's the character of the opposition. Okay, that's instructive. We're going to stick with that kind of thing. Okay, Dr. Seuss, got it. But also instructive, I think, was this from Senator Mitch McConnell, who is, once again, flat out promising in advance that 0 Republican senators will vote for Biden and the Democrats' next legislation. On infrastructure, on the American Families Plan, there will be 0 Republicans voting for it. I mean, talk about something undercovered by the Beltway press. Think about the implications of this. This ought to be the cause for, wall-to-wall political coverage for days on end. But instead, this is covered as like, thing McConnell said, and everybody moves on. And meanwhile, we're stuck with this weird common wisdom in the Beltway. All the commentariat, all still saying that Biden needs to find Republican votes. He needs a big bipartisan show of hands in support of what he's doing. He needs to keep meeting with Republicans and talking to Republicans to find something that they like so we can get Republican votes. Newsflash, there's not going to be any Republican votes. He doesn't have to do any of those things. I mean, just put up that headline again. The Republicans are promising. They are saying out loud and ahead of time that no matter what is in the bill, no matter what talks happen or don't, no matter how nicely anyone talks with them or to them or about them, there will be 0 Republican votes for what Joe Biden wants to do. 0 Republican votes promised in advance. For infrastructure, for the American Families Plan, 0, none, no matter what talks happen. If that's being guaranteed in advance by the Republican leader, there really is no reason for Democrats to waste time talking to Republicans about their feelings on something, right? They are pledged as a group to unanimously vote no, no matter what the legislation is, which is a convenient piece of advance warning that it's not worth talking to them about it. They have already pledged 0 votes. Good to know. Now we can stop wasting time wondering what you'll do, because you've told us in advance. It also means we don't need to spend time trying to persuade you. This is a blessing for the Democrats. You will recall this also happened with the COVID relief plan, right? Again, back before that passed, Senator Mitch McConnell promised publicly, no matter what was in that bill, no matter what talks happened or didn't, no Republicans would vote for the COVID Relief Act. Democrats got that message. They didn't bother letting Republicans waste time, water it down. Democrats, with that promise in hand from Mitch McConnell, took him at his word, and they decided they would pass the bill basically intact and quickly without letting Republicans bog them down, since they were all going to be no votes no matter what. Well, now that McConnell has made the same promise on infrastructure and the American Families Act, Democrats are free to do the same. If there are no Republican votes by guarantee in advance from the Republican leader, then okay. Negotiations, by definition, will be among Democrats themselves only, which can frankly be hairy enough, but it does mean they can ignore Republicans entirely and move quickly. So we'll see how this translates in days ahead in the administration and in Congress. But the lack of any reality-based critique from the Republicans on this forthcoming legislation as well. Okay. The promise that they won't vote for anything, no matter what's in it. Those are procedural blessings for the Democrats. Those are freeing for the Democrats in terms of how they proceed here, and their ability in good conscience to preclude any involvement from Republicans that will slow down and weaken either of those legislative proposals. They can move ahead, the Democrats, on their own terms with just their own votes, with clarity.